to be hosting an amazing woman who has made impact in the marketplace and is doing incredible and amazing things. Thank you for joining us. Our speaker tonight is Shamim Wadisimbi. She is a HR consultant board member. She's also an African HR Confederation. She's also a CEO among the very many titles that she embodied. And tonight we're going to talk about skills that technology cannot replace and how do you develop them? Like we said earlier, you cannot ignore the fact that technology is here. And every time technology takes precedence in an environment, what usually happens is that there is change, rapid change. Things move. And there's always been that conversation of, is AI going to take our jobs? What should we do about AI? How are you going to position yourself? This is that conversation that helps you know how you're going to position yourself in an era and at times where technology has taken precedence. So as if you have not invited your friends, your family, you have not invited that colleague who has been having worries about AI, invite them to join because right about now, we will be inviting our speaker to introduce herself, tell us more about herself, and then from there we'll carry on with the conversation. Please, one more time, remind a friend to join the conversation. So at this particular moment, allow me to welcome Ms. Shamin Balusimbi. I would like for her to introduce herself, and then from there we'll start off the conversation. Karibu sana, Ms. Shamin.
All right. Thank you so much, Faith. Kindly confirm that you can hear me.
Loud and clear, you're very audible. Thank you.
All right. I will turn on the video temporarily. Unfortunately, the call caught me when I'm still on the road, but I will turn it on towards the end for a longer period of time. So just to have the official introduction, here I am. Good evening, everyone. And I'm so glad to be here today. I'm truly grateful for you, Faith, amazing moderator, for ushering us into this session. Just to also mention the people that I see on the call so far, I see Onesmus, Kathy, Deborah, Dorothy, Eunice, Frida, Jackie, Juliet, Kule, Mary, Isaac, Johnson, Pius, Patrick, Robert, Samuel, Sarah, Simon Peter, Sonia, Stella, Susan, to mention but a few. I'm so honored that you've dedicated the last few hours of your day to not only benefit from Future Den, but to invest in your personal growth. So thank you so much. Once again, my name is Shamim Olusimbi, HR consultant. I am the founder of Utopia, which is an HR consultancy firm dealing in HR outsourcing for organizations. We also support persons in career transition to look out for opportunities. Let it be someone who's transitioning into remote work or people who would like to get better opportunities, someone who's looking to get to a different level than where they are today. Trust me that I have had over 10 years of experience in the field, and it's my utmost dedication to ensure that I support as many people as possible. The ideology is to connect talent to opportunity. So thank you very much. Please allow me to turn off the video so I can deliver the core of this message. Faith, hope that's okay with you as well.
It's okay, we understand that you're still on transit. I hope that
Yeah,
you'll be able to share. No problem. You can
yeah,
turn the
sure. I'm
video
not
off.
driving, so it's okay.
Okay,
All right.
amazing. Thank you very much. We are glad to have seen you. Thank you for making time to be here amidst your commitments. Sorry for the traffic. I hope you get home on time.
I will. I will.
So
Thank
today
you.
we are having a conversation on skills that technology cannot replace. And I would like to pick up from the fact that you have said that you have had 10 years of experience So, from your 10 years of experience in helping people transition and positioning them for the right opportunities or the right jobs, whichever that would work best, I want to understand what have you seen as the most valuable skills that the people whom you have helped transition successfully possess?
All right, thank you very much. So, over the last few years, we have been in transition as a revolution. We all know that industrial revolutions are eras that we all pass through, right from the Stone Age to what we're transitioning from right now, which is our fourth industrial revolution. This is the era of big data, Internet of Things, total automation, and we're looking at getting into industrial revolution, the fifth industrial revolution, where the society is trying to bring back the human into the loop. So we have seen a lot of automation taking over in the last few years, but right now things are changing. What I would say are some of the most critical skills that technology cannot take over is one, over and above the technical knowledge. I have personally been in talent acquisition, and I've seen people going through assessments, interviews, and there's one thing that employers are looking out for, and that is emotional intelligence. It goes a lot to do with the attitude that you depict during interviews, during the period when you're employed in the organization. So definitely technology can stimulate empathy, but it cannot feel it. The ability to read a room, the ability to navigate these difficult office politics that we cannot avoid, or even confronting someone who is grieving, someone who is lost, and you're unable to identify where is this a performance issue or it's something that is being beneath the surface. So understanding non-verbal cues in different cultural contexts is very, very important. And most times technology doesn't seem to easily identify that. You can find ways to track it, but the only way that you as a leader, as someone who is transitioning in terms of your skill development, you have to look at ways that you can develop your emotional intelligence. So it's just such some of the ways that you can develop that is active listening. If you practice mirroring conversations, that is, in short, it's repeating the essence of what someone said to ensure that they feel heard, to ensure that you are with them in the conversation. That way, it builds a sense of emotional intelligence and also trust amongst the people that you're connecting with. Yes, once you get a hold of that, you will be perceived as a person with a positive attitude. People see in a different light, and even if you're technically not very skilled, not qualified, times organizations can overlook that if they see that you're highly emotionally intelligent with the right attitude. I would say that that's the number one skill. Second, I would say that our ethical reasoning is very important. AI, right now we are really big on AI, that's artificial intelligence, looking at algorithms, logical gates. And one thing that's missing is, where is the ethics beyond that? Where is that gray area? So most people are struggling with lots of activities. There are problems going on in life, business challenges. But when you look at how to ensure that you are pushing in terms of your compliance, that's one thing people tend to lose focus on if they don't have the skill set. Right now, organizations have made it much easier by putting in place policies, putting in place procedures to guide people. At an individual level, we have had people developing job descriptions or performance indicators for their roles, or even for their personal journeys, personal growth journeys. We've had people journaling to see where they have gone wrong, where they can correct themselves, where they can do better. So once we have that sense of ethical reasoning, moral and ethical reasoning, at times it could set us apart from those who are engrossed in the busy schedule that can easily be seen as being productive. However, you'll find that you're just busy, yet you're not productive. I would say that the third, before I hand over back to you, is creativity. And not just simplicity of creativity, because I personally am an artist. I studied art in my high school, and it's something that I apply even in my daily life. Every time I'm tasked to do something, I look at it as a blank canvas and think to myself, how can I turn this seemingly empty, incomplete situation into something beautiful, something brilliant. So creativity cuts across. You might not be having the hands-on creativity skills, let's say drawing, molding, creating, but you could be a strategic thinker, because strategy in itself is creativity. It really takes a lot for someone to have that visionary sense of thinking and liter literally looking at an idea and creating something out of it. So once someone develops the skill of creativity, it can be not only a spark of inspiration, but a catalyst to success. It's something that can easily be developed in people. You'll find that over time, people have complained about burnout. They're unable to find that spark. They're unable to get amused to kickstart their creative juices. Sometimes it can be developed from within. And one of the fastest ways is, first of all, how is your internal internal health? How is your body? Are you exercising? Are you thinking differently? Are you putting whatever you have in your mind into action? So definitely, if you think about exercise, nutrition, those are the foundation of opening up your mental clarity. And of course, if you involve yourself in things that need your hands, then suddenly you'll find that that impact can still be seen in the work that you do, even if it's creating a strategy, a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, or even trying to understand how you're going to prioritize your tasks for that day. That is all, these are all activities that you can apply strategy and creative thinking to. I have a couple of more. I don't know if Faith, you'd want me to exhaust them, or would you like to first internalize the ones I've shared so far?
I actually wanted to say that you have kind of summarized the whole conversation into pointers, but that is really beautiful. I love it. Thank you for that. So allow us to first digest what you have shared, and then probably you can share more on what you have already mentioned. Thank you very much for that particular exegesis. I have really gotten a lot, and I would want to pick your brain on some of those things that you have already highlighted. I love the fact that you started with emotional intelligence. I think that's a very standout quality that everyone in this generation needs to develop. And you broke it down very beautifully from active listening, knowing how to read a room, knowing what to say and how to say it, knowing the feeling component, having intuition. That is something that technology does not have. And that is something that can make us stand out. And I wanted to ask something with reference to that particular concept. How would you differentiate teachability from emotional intelligence? Because I understand that you also said something about when you're looking at it as a HR, you look at the attitude of an individual when they're coming to that particular place. What role does teachability play aside from emotional intelligence when it comes to skill development? And then I will ask another question in line with creativity. And then after that, we can look into something else. Kindly.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, if you'd like to distinguish teachability from emotional intelligence, you have to think about it this way. Emotional intelligence can be engine, but teachability is the fuel. One allows you to navigate the world, while the other ensures that you never stop growing within it. So if I'm to break it down a little bit more, the core focus when we're talking about emotional intelligence is mostly awareness and regulation. Emotional intelligence involves you understanding your own emotions and those of others so that you can easily manage interactions. It's as easy as seeing there's a conversation and you visibly see that someone is maybe tired, someone is exhausted, and you manage it accordingly. You motivate them, you tell them, you just encourage them amidst the conversation because deep down you know that it might be sensitive. They might not be able to talk about what they're truly going through, but you show that you are there for them. I can see you can say I can see that my colleague is frustrated. I should adjust my tone so I don't have to escalate this. Or if you're a supervisor and someone has not delivered, of course, based on what you're viewing, you have to start by asking, what is there something going on? How's your family? How's your personal life? They might not share, but just the fact that you asked, the fact that you asked brings a different perspective around it. But when we talk about the core focus around teachability, that's mostly circulated by humility and the ability for you to grow, the willingness to be wrong, to unlearn old habits, and to actively seek instruction. Because one might be considered as emotionally intelligent, but they are they are opposed to learning or to correction. Someone could say that I'm an expert, so whatever people say to control that narrative, I will listen, but I will follow my own opinion. So the end in mind is to see how to merge them, how to mirror, how to reflect, how to ensure that you find a common ground between emotional intelligence and teachability. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you for that clarity. I love the fact that teachability is actively seeking instruction and carrying the willingness to grow. That really stands out from emotional intelligence, where you just check out on yourself and try to read what the other person's environment feels like and just being there for them. That is really something pivotal that we should carry along in the work environment. Please don't forget that this conversation is also live on YouTube. So if you're not able to access the Zoom link, please share the YouTube link to your friends and your colleagues, and they'll be able to join. Back to the section of creativity. I like how you started that you're an arts person, you have done arts, and creativity is not just in the doing of art, let's say drawing, knitting of things, but also in strategic thinking and being able to vision things out. And you went into details that now brought this question into mind. You talked about exercising, thinking differently, exposing yourself to environments, having proper nutrition. So my question on this would be, how does a personal self-view influence the development of skills? Like, just to break it down a little, how does my perception of myself help me or hinder me from developing skills that are necessary to navigate the current marketplace? Because I mean, when you're talking about exercising and nutrition, we know that we don't just exercise for gaining muscle and all that. In fact, most of the people that exercise actually go there because of their personal self-image. They want to either to do this or reduce that or add this or check on that or just to keep fit. So how does the personal image of oneself affect how they develop skills or the lack of skills there?
Okay, thank you very much. I would say that the way someone views themselves is basically the operating system through which you process every scenario that you go through, every challenge, every piece of feedback, every learning opportunity. And it goes back to think, how is your mindset? How do you perceive whatever you're being told? Is it considered as constructive? Is it considered as something that's going to change your life? And I'll use a practical example. I started my career in customer service, and at that time, I believed that I was wasting my life. It was 4 years. I was in a night shift job in Malaysia. I was supporting a contact center for Korean Air. It's an airline that is originally from Korea, but travels to multiple places all over the world. So I was handling calls, inbound calls, and emails. So as you can see, currently I'm an HR professional, and of course at that time I was like, why am I not practicing HR like I'm investing? Because at that time I was studying, I was pursuing my master's degree in HR, at the same time working. So when I now that I look back at it, those 4 years that I believe I was perhaps wasting my life actually showed that I was building skills. I was building skills that are supporting me in my current profession. I was building the skill of patience, communication, empathy, because those who have done customer service know at times the person that you're communicating with is blaming you, they say shooting the messenger instead of the actual issue. We had scenarios where someone had a schedule change, a flight change, and they didn't get that automated notification. And who did they blame? The person on the phone. Like, why did you make me miss my flight? It's because of you that I won't make it for this graduation. So what do you do when someone is screaming at you and you're just on, a paycheck? You have to calm them down. You have to understand that they are going through something, and although it's rubbing negatively on you, what is your role? How can you heal this person? How can you help them get through what they're going through? So looking at every scenario as a learning opportunity is something that could change in terms of how you perceive whatever is around you. It acts as a filter that either amplifies or stifles your development. So maybe just to talk a little bit about the growth mindset, it's one of the most significant ways to look at how people view themselves, and how it affects development. Just think about it, reflect on your own self. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Honestly, right now, I believe there is room for development, but personally, I feel like I have a growth mindset. I mean, that's the states where I believe that opportunities are immense. There's so much that we can share. I don't see anyone as my competition. I look at how can we collaborate. So if you view your brain as a muscle, you'll see challenges such as resistance. You'll see any kind of issue that you're going through as if it's a negative mindset, you'll see it as failure. So opening up your mind to transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset is very, very important to transition your self-view and to see to it that whatever you're going through is more of a learning, more of skills development than a challenge. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that particular activity. You reminded me of something I had from an amazing singer who makes harmony out of music recently. And he said that in an era where technology and AI has become the drill, the magic of music lies in unpredictability, where you find the balance between dissonance and consonance and you just make it marry and bring out something that was unexpected. So it's interesting that a growth mindset is something that people might not really envision, but it's something that is expected. As Viewing every challenge as an opportunity of growth, that is something quite outstanding. And probably to just keep you on that particular perspective, because growth mindset is one of the not necessarily skill set, but an attitude that can help you acquire the necessary skill set. I'd like you to bring about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset in a way that is a bit more clearer to our audience. Maybe point out a few things that distinguish the growth mindset from a fixed mindset, and how do you, like you have said, the brain is a muscle, how do you adjust it in case you suffer with a fixed mindset on a particular issue? How do you work on your brain to just stretch itself and make you have a growth mindset? And from there, we can pick on other skills that help us in this era where technology is taking over. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll give us a few examples. I have a friend who always gives okay, mentions affirmations in the morning, and it's something that really spoke to me, and it helped me to understand what a growth mindset truly means. I'll give a few examples of what someone could say with who has a fixed mindset, and I'll also share a few examples of what someone with a growth mindset would say to themselves. And this can be out loud, it can be mental, it can be psychological, it can just even be in their subconscious or their dreams. Someone with a fixed mindset, first of all, is not willing to learn. Say, I know best. I studied this and I'm implementing what I studied. No one can tell me otherwise. That is in relation to your work, it's in relation to activities that you're doing as a team, it's in relation to leadership, because usually they say that leaders eat last. Leaders should be at the last to share their views. Let us hear from everyone else. Accept challenges, accept people to give their opinions and different views, because you never know what you'd learn. Another way that someone with a fixed mindset would think is giving up. When you're faced with a challenge, first thing that you think of is, it was never meant to be. I'm done. This is it. I'll also share a practical scenario of this, and something that I faced myself. It's a challenge that I undertook a few years ago. It was a mountain climbing challenge. So it helped me to truly understand what it means to persevere and not easily give up. So when you're climbing a mountain, for those of us who have tried before, or who have at least read about it, you would see that you will find different obstacles along the way. And this is something that you can never truly prepare yourself for. You'll find that along your path, there'll be a river. You have to jump across, like hopping on rocks, just slippery rocks at that, to get to the other side. Then when you're done with that, a few meters up the mountain, you'll find there's a very steep slope, and you have to go on your hands and knees just to navigate that to get to the next, to the next destination. Then you'll find a few meters down the road, you'll find that you have to now climb, like literally climb rocks. So there'll be obstacles along the way. And when you're climbing a mountain, you realize that the one thing that keeps you going is you just have to think about how far you've gone and how you cannot afford to let all that go to waste by giving up there. You just have to get through the obstacle, because even if you say I'm not going to go through this obstacle, you still have to go through the obstacles you've already gone through just to get back down. So that mentality of I give up is very, very prevalent in fixed mindsets, something that needs to really be broken, and perseverance has to go through. Even if you adjust accordingly, you'll understand that is something that you can outgrow. Then I will never be that smart. It's a mentality that many people have. They think that, okay, if I'm not performing well in my studies in this particular path, then it's going to be detrimental to me. I won't be able to get through this degree. I won't be able to get through this short course. So that's what people with a fixed mindsets usually have of in their mind. Then there is, I want to avoid making mistakes. One thing you'll realize is mistakes are part of learning, part of growth. If you're not making a mistake, or if you're not understanding what the mistakes are, you will say that you're not growing. So let's look at the growth mindset. If you look at the growth mindset, you'll see that when you make a mistake, you know that mistakes help me learn, mistakes help me grow. Practice makes perfect. Every time I'm pursuing something one step at a time, I'm getting better. Feedback is valuable. You can't survive without feedback. You actually look for it. You don't run away from it. Is this my best work? Can I do better? Am I going to give up? No, I'm not. And of course, the daily affirmations, I'm strong, I'm beautiful, and um, I'm I'm successful, I'm rich, I'm loaded. Like, just call out to yourself what you envision as success, and that it will be. Hopefully that adds a little bit more light on it, Faith. Thank you.
Beautiful, amazing. Yes, it does add more light about it. I like how people are getting the point and they're getting on asking questions. Please ask your questions. We'll come back to them in a minute or two. And we would like to hear also more on what you think is necessary that we might have left out in terms of having these conversations of skills that we need to develop. You have also mentioned something very outstanding when it comes to this particular aspect of growth mindset. You have talked about seeking feedback. Now, that is one of those skills that I don't know if most of the people would want to say Gen Zs are not fond of because I mean they believe that they do their things their own way. Not to discriminate or instigate anything on the Gen Zs. It's just a term that has been used a lot often. But that art of seeking feedback, let's talk about it a little bit more because I believe it's a skill that needs to be earned or learned by each and every one of us, especially in an era where technology has taken precedence. There was a newspaper that was circulating a while back, and it showed how the news writer or the editor had written a paper, and that paper was a direct copy from ChatGPT because it had that final line of, please let me know how you would like us to proceed next. Okay? So ideally, that shows you that the person who wrote that particular article did not seek feedback. Neither did the person who was given it to print. They did not have the time to look through and give feedback. So the art of receiving feedback, let's talk about it. And also something that you could probably highlight more in that particular conversation is the ability to separate the person who is giving the feedback from the feedback. Because I believe there could be a struggle here and there on a particular aspect. Meanwhile, if you have questions, please prepare them and have them on our chat box, or you can hold them. We'll have a moment allowing you to just unmute and share with us what you have learned and what you would like to ask. So back to you, Ms. Shamim, the art of receiving and giving feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I will share an actual strategy of how to give feedback, because usually the challenge is the giving. How do you give feedback in a way that it won't be offensive, it won't be misinterpreted or misquoted? Because I know I speak for many when I say that at times you really want to correct someone, and this is someone who is probably important in your life. It could be a friend, it could be a colleague at work, it could be a subordinate, it could be a supervisor, it could even be your parents, your kids, anyone. So the strategy I'm going to share with you cuts across. It is a very, very common way that you can give. It's a model, and it's one that is very easy to implement. You can give feedback in a way that it won't rub off negatively on the person who is receiving it. They call it the 3 sentence feedback. So for those who are noting down, I'll just share the first words of the sentences, then the rest of the sentence. Of course, it can be customized to your particular situation. So the first sentence is, I noticed. So I'll give an example. Let's say you're supervising, and the person that you're supervising, maybe let's say they're meant to be um, tidying a particular place. You say that, and you see that maybe someone who was supposed to handle a particular surface area has only handled just a small part of it. So of course, it as the person who is in charge of making sure that this place has been dealt with, because you have the urge of either giving the feedback or doing it yourself, just getting whatever equipment you need and doing it yourself just to avoid that uncomfortable conversation. So the first sentence is, I noticed. This is a point of observation. It showcases the person that you're speaking to, that this is something that is visible. It's not only visible to me, it's visible to many other stakeholders, people who are, who have influence on the activity that you're doing. So in this case, you can say, I noticed that you only handled this section of the part that you're supposed to manage instead of handling the entire section. So of course, the person you're speaking to, deep down, they also know that they didn't complete their work. And bringing it out in this way of, I've observed, I've seen, it's clear, it brings a small sense of shame, that, okay, yeah, I thought I would get away with it, but it has actually been seen. I thought, like, at least I would rest for the day and maybe consider tomorrow as the day to put in all the effort. Yeah, so basically it just brings that sense of awareness of, okay, I've been discovered. I've like things that have been uncovered. So the keyword is I noticed. That way, it prevents the person who is being spoken to start by being defensive. Because if you come in, let's say, of course, you're visibly unhappy, you're upset, you're angry, and you say, why didn't you do? Of course, the person is going to think of a million reasons as to why they didn't. Either they are tired, or there was no this, or there was no that, whatever tools they needed to complete the task. But to avoid that defensive response as a starter, that I noticed keyword is very important. There, basically, the person is either agreeing or they'll have a response, but it won't change the fact that it has been observed. So that's the first sentence I noticed. Then the second sentence, it made me feel. So now you're talking about the impact. You can be vulnerable enough to share how it made you feel, but another approach is to share how it has impacted people around. So as I said, you can customize it to whatever situation. So if we're speaking on the same example, let's say um, someone, an assistant is meant to clean a particular part of the office and they've only handled a segment, something that is visible that they didn't complete their job. You can mention that it made me feel that you're not focusing on the full part of your role, like you're taking it for granted. But you can also say it makes the people around the company uncomfortable because like you think of the end in mind, the impact. They're going to fall sick. Right now, hygiene is very important for this space because without that, the rate of sickness is going to increase. And like you basically you paint the bigger picture as to why it's important for them to do that role. So the keyword there is it made me feel, or it impacted people in such and such a way. Then the third sentence is in future, I would prefer that we dash dash dash. So that way you're not dwelling because some people identify a problem, and one of the reasons why feedback is not taken very well is like you'll keep reminding the person of that same situation for months on end. Like I'll give an example of many people who have gone through school with guardians or parents be like when you see someone when you don't do well in the exams, anything that you're doing, whether you're watching television or you're on your phone or something, anything that you're doing to give you pleasure, they attach it to you failing. Like, that's why you failed your exams. I want to go hang out with my friends. That's why you failed your exams because you're always with your friends. See, so dwelling on something for too long makes you not even not open to receive feedback. So this this way helps you to just share what are we going to do differently going forward, how are we going to change the status quo of this challenge, of this activity. So the keyword is in future. I would like us to do this, and it's so in the previous example, in future, I would like you to consider like making sure that you cover all the area that you're supposed to work on because now you understand the impact. So that's a very simple methodology or framework that can help to deliver feedback to anyone. It cuts across, as I mentioned, your supervisor. Like it's respectful and it's effective. There are very many different models of delivering difficult conversations, like the SBI model, like different models. So you can still research, but as per what I've seen in the market and also experienced myself, the three sentence feedback is the most effective. Thank you very much.
Amazing. I think that deserves a round of applause. I don't know if you have enjoyed that particular conversation like I did. I believe that people resent feedback because of how it is given, not necessarily because feedback is wrong. And just to give you a minute to breathe, we are having a very lively conversation on YouTube. People are really engaging. Thank you very much. Highlighting some of the things that are key. And one of those things that has stood out is the fact that you have mentioned that strategy is creativity. That is quite something. And also, someone has highlighted a book that can help people understand emotional intelligence in terms of the work dynamics, How to Work with Complicated People by Ryan Leake. I believe that is a book recommendation. We'll ask the team to share it on the WhatsApp group after the conversation is done. So if you're not on the WhatsApp group, again, the link will be shared on our Zoom and the WhatsApp platform for you to be able to join and get more updates on what is happening within the Future Then community. So the three sentence feedback I noticed it made me feel and in future would appreciate if you do one, two, three. It's something nice. Don't be an African parent who keeps reiterating things over and over and over again. Again, if you have any questions, any comments, please be sharing them on the chat boxes. They are available for you to be able to ask any questions, make any comments. I can see Onesimus highlighting the fact that daily affirmations stood out for him. He loves the fact that you can do daily affirmations on yourself and they would bring you some great, amazing magic in terms of creating a positive and great growth mindset. So Miles Johnson is asking, what one bad thing do emotional intelligent people normally face? Okay, kindly, Mr. Johnson,
I didn't get
would
that.
you mind? Yes, I am also having a challenge in interpreting that. So please, Mr. Johnson, kindly expound on your question. Help us understand what do you mean by what one bad thing do emotional intelligence people normally face? Is it in terms of the negative side of being emotionally intelligent or the positive side? Kindly expound on your question and we'll be able to attend to it before we wrap it up in this particular session. So probably before we even go further into the final skill sets that you would like us to go through tonight, with reference to creativity, you talked about now how you would make yourself be open to being creative, but how do you develop the art or the skill set of creativity? What do you expose yourself to if there are things that you can expose yourself to that can make you more creative? Is creativity something that you are born with, or is it something that you can actually develop as you go along the way? So probably you could delve into that as now you touch on the last set of the skill set that you consider necessary in this age that technology cannot replace. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, this is an age-old debate. It's basically nature versus nurture. So some people do have that understanding that yeah, you could be born with the capacity, but you must put in effort to develop it, to develop the ability to even do better at it. So while some people have a higher baseline for divergent thinking, sometimes it could be due to their genetical abilities or their upbringing. Creativity is much more like a muscle than something that is fixed. I can tell you for one, I mentioned that I love art, but I'm not the best artist. But I've also noticed that my siblings do love art. They're quite creative, even if they haven't drawn in years, because usually most of us last drew or had the opportunity to draw when we were in high school. But if you give me a canvas right now and say, no, just do something, you'll find that there's that muscle memory that comes from within that I can still apply at a later stage. It's something that I saw practically when a few weeks ago I organized a get together for HR leaders in a subsection of the HR finals. It's called Chikosi 7. And we went for that activity that people usually call paint and sip. So people were excited about it because they came in not knowing like if they were artists, if they could actually paint, but they tried anyway, and everyone appreciated their individual creative skill. And the mentality still remained that like whatever we wish to have on paper can actually, let me put this. can actually come to reality. So I'll start by talking about the starting line. Everyone is born with a creative mind, and most people actually use only like 1% of there is only 1% of their full ability, their mental ability. So openness to experience is very important to help to enhance your mental abilities. Divergent thinking also helps, how like always when you have an opportunity to think, you have to think, how can I do this differently? Change how can I change the status quo for what I see, and how can I transition it into something that is even better? There's also a genius myth. While some people say high IQ, people have high IQ, they can look at opportunities as a way to think differently, how to have a head start. But it doesn't guarantee that if you have a high IQ, you'll have a creative output. It really cuts across your ability to nurture it. So when we talk about now building it, how to nurture creativity, I would say that one of the easiest ways, you might not be built with that skill or the art. I've seen many people who naturally gifted at singing, but there's also something called the 10,000 hour rule. Don't know if any of you have heard of that methodology. So if you do something that you're passionate about for 10,000 hours, you'll get to see that you improve until you reach pro level. So this is something that you can practice yourself. If you are a terrible singer, you sound like a frog when you try to open your mouth, and then you try to do it over and over again. You get a voice trainer, you get someone to support you, and you keep singing for 10,000 hours. You'll find that at the 10,001 hour, you'll be much better than you are when you started. It's the same for public speaking. Personally, I have grown in my skill of public speaking because people who knew me in the past knew that I was very shy. I had the ability, I had that drive to speak and to communicate. But if you give me a microphone, I'll just tremble and probably lose my voice because I didn't have the skill. But I invested in it. I went for public speaking classes. I tried to get an understanding of how to engage audiences, how to understand the pain points, pleasure points. Basically, there's a science to it. And of course, practicing, I'm grateful for this opportunity. It's one of my opportunities to get better at public speaking because I'm excited that I just got an invitation to speak at an international conference. It's happening in June. And I've been getting similar invitations. Just a few weeks ago, I got the opportunity to go to South Africa. I wasn't a keynote speaker, but I did get the opportunity to speak. And every opportunity that I get to at least say a word, ask a question, I take it because I know that this is all culminating to my success in this skill. So 10,000 hour rule is one of the easiest ways to nurture a skill. And of course, just looking around you, associative thinking. One of the ways that I've also developed in my HR technical skills is through my association. I've intentionally surrounded myself with professionals, people who are better than me, more experienced than me. And I just use that first skill that I told you, active listening. Someone might even forget that you're in the room, but what you're doing is soaking in information, you're listening, you're understanding the challenges that they're talking about in the midst of the conversations, how they're navigating through that. And before you knew it, ask me anything in HR, and I'll speak it like I've experienced it myself, yet I'm living through someone else. So I really thrive on being around networks of the people that I'm trying to grow into, and that is what has pushed me up from being a leader in the HR Managers Association of Uganda all the way to vice president level, and then eventually transitioning into leadership in the Africa Human Resource Confederation, where I serve as a board member. So all that is just me wanting to learn, me wanting to grow by serving. Of course, it's all voluntary, but I feel like I'm gaining even more than the. I feel like what I'm giving out in terms of my service is much less than what I'm gaining in terms of skills. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that particular response to that. And thank you very much for that particular response. We really do appreciate that. Sorry, I have seen that we have Dr. Professor Dan Msinguzi on the call, as well as Coach Samuel Ivanda, some amazing people that we have had in this particular session, and they are amazing mentors of this particular community. Please help me appreciate them. Sorry for that. I had noticed them earlier and we're hoping to recognize them on time. Thank you very much for joining us. We are glad that you made time to be with us. Thank you very much, Ms. Shamim, for the particular services. You have mentioned something that I would like you to delve deeper before we can head on to the last phase of this conversation. The aspect of growth by service, that most of the skills that you have developed, even as an individual, they have all come through by you putting yourself out there and also having a growth mindset, wanting to learn more, wanting to position yourself more, wanting to just be better. But the aspect of growing by service, I believe service is a skill that is quite pivotal in this generation, but it's fading out by the minute. I mean, as a HR, you can also tell us the number of times that people would take unpaid internship opportunities is actually lower compared to the times where people would take paid internship opportunities. Probably you could highlight for us through experience as an individual and through now what growth by service can do to you. What does it mean for someone to just give themselves and put themselves out there in terms of just serving, even when there is no actual reward? How does service become an outstanding skill set for anyone who wants to rise or climb in the ladder of professional market space?
All right, thank you very much. And personally, I attest my professional growth to service. That's the honest truth, because right from the time when I got my MBA in HR, I did mention that I attained it while I was in Malaysia, but I was what I didn't mention is that it was on scholarship. I earned a scholarship, and it wasn't through having a first class degree in my bachelor's. It wasn't through being outstanding in sports. It was simply through volunteering. And once I, I attained that, I knew that all you have to do is trust the process. It's the same situation that I had when I was still working in Korean Air. As I mentioned, I was in customer service, being yelled at by customers all through the night because it was a night shift job, because you're in very difficult situations. But there was a reward system that indicated that if you get such a number of compliments, let's say 10 compliments in a week, you will earn yourself a gift ticket to anywhere in the world. So I was one of the beneficiaries of those gift tickets, because after 4 years of practice, okay, maybe at that time it was three, because I earned that reward in the last year of my work at Korean Air. But basically, I learned that, it's just trust the process. If you have a heart of service, a mindset of service, you will see to it that blessings will follow you basically. So that time when I unlocked that gift ticket, I could travel to any place in the world. I thought to myself, okay, which is the farthest part of the world that's visa free to Ugandans? I went to Fiji and I did one of my milestone bucket list activities, which was bungee jumping. Yeah, I love things that put me on the edge. That's why you're hearing me climbing mountains. I'm actually planning to climb another mountain this year. God willingly, if I go to Arusha, there's a conference there. I might try my best to summit Mountain Kilimanjaro. But what I'm saying in terms of um how this is all connecting, volunteering, or basically going over and beyond what you're supposed to do, is actually not only an opportunity to gain experience, but it's also an opportunity to gain credibility. People are going to see you differently. When I learned that I volunteered, I got a scholarship. I did best in my job, I got a gift ticket and I went skydiving. So I kept thinking, okay, let me trust this process. Let me understand that, I might not get a paycheck for what I'm doing, but let me just try to just do my best in everything. I know I get burnt out, I get tired, but it all goes to how can I build that sense of resilience, build that sense of perseverance so that I can push. So maybe if I can just make it a little bit clearer in terms of volunteering. Currently, I volunteer in HR. That's the HR MAU, and the Africa Okay, that was previous for the last 6 years. I volunteered in the leadership, and for some reason, I saw that as the more I volunteered and I grew in leadership, the more that I grew in career. If look at my career history, I started when I transitioned from customer care to HR. I started in admin, and just 2 years later, I grew into management. Usually, people first go to admin officer, senior officer, then management. I just quantum leap to management. Then from management, 2 years later, I got into a global institution as a global recruitment consultant, and I'm currently running my own firm. So you see that every time you give back, somehow God blesses you, and you find yourself being in spaces where you see that you're developing, you're adding more value, opportunities unlimited. So I believe that it's a simple equation. The more you give, the more you receive. Thank you.
Interesting to end with the fact that it's a simple equation, yet the most complicated of all. It would be equivalent to saying that if you're faithful in another man's, you'll get your own. Yet just the art of faithfulness requires a lot of diligence. But I like how you started when you state that the heart of service is what really brought about all these other blessings, because you might actually do them out of eye service and end up not getting a free trip all over the world. So please, we are not trying to say that when you offer services for free, expect that your leaders will give you a trip around the world. No, we are saying that you need to develop the heart of service, doing it genuinely from the core, knowing the why, and understanding that you do not just do it, you understand that giving, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Thank you for that, really. And probably to my last question of the night before we can take the questions that are coming in from the people that are joining us tonight. I want to ask about the skill of learning to ask the right question, because I believe for people who are not limited in terms of technical skills or the technical knowledge, probably what you kind of miss out is the art of asking asking the right questions. So kindly take us through on the right questions, how to ask the right questions and how to go about it.
Okay, thank you very much. So the ability to ask the right question is usually termed as strategic inquiry. You ask in a way that it either gets you closer to what you're looking for, or it opens up the mind of the person that you're asking. So right now we know that AI can answer most of the questions that are like basically in the market, and that brings it to asking now, you as a human, you as someone that we are looking up to for answers, how can you be a source of information? So some of the aspects that people consider is how best to make it an open-ended question, not necessarily asking something that will give a direct answer like yes or no, single fact. That way, if you're asking something generative, something general, that actually gives the person who's responding an opportunity to even think beyond, think deeper than what they're looking for. I'll give an example of today. I was in the field. As I mentioned, I do have an HR consultancy, so we're trying to do things differently. I've been in HR consultancy for over 10 years, and I know that the organizations have different challenges right now. Things have changed, and the best way to identify them is through a diagnostic approach. And it's simply asking questions, asking more questions than like just grabbing solutions down their throat. So I went to this very, very established organization, and all I did with my colleague is ask questions. What are the challenges? What are your observations? What do you see? That way, even something that they have been keeping within, it gave them an opportunity to unearth it. And for some reason, even if it was a consultative meeting, the people that we engaged left feeling, okay, I've built trust with this person. I feel like they could be the solution that we're looking for. I feel like they're invested in our development, in our growth. So basically, open-ended questions can never go wrong in if you're thinking of how to ask in a strategic way. But if you want to dig deeper into identifying a challenge, there's a technique that they call the 5 whys. I don't know if anyone has ever tried to practice it, but basically it's designed to identify a root cause of a problem. I'll give an example of client satisfaction, since I've practiced that before. If, let's say, a client is not happy, why? The first reason, because they did not get the report in time. Then you still have to ask why. Why did they not get the report in time? Answer, because maybe the data was hard to collect or to analyze. It took longer than expected. Then you still ask the same question, why? Why did it take longer than expected? Then you identify, okay, because the software was outdated. No, the software was outdated. Then you still ask, why is the software outdated? And usually, by the time you reach the fifth why, you understand the root cause to now all the problems that are going to even keep affecting clients, because we haven't done an audit in multiple years. It's the same approach that I used today. They did mention that, okay, maybe customer service is a challenge. And when I asked a few whys, we eventually realized that they haven't had a customer service training in the last few years. So at least there I had something to start with. Like, okay, since this could be a starting point to our collaboration, why don't we start with this? So yeah, that I encourage you to develop that skill, that technique, the 5 whys. It will help you to ask in a more strategic way over and above asking open-ended and reflective questions. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I will use that technique and I'll be sure to give you feedback on that particular one. I have loved it. Thank you very much. So as we come to a close, probably I'll give you just a few minutes to share on the remaining skills that you might have that we have not yet talked about in our conversation. And then after that, we'll go into a session of answering a few questions here and then receive a parting shot from you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can you just say it one more time?
Okay, sorry. I'm saying that from the skill set that you had highlighted today in terms of the skills that are irreplaceable, we started off by talking about emotional intelligence and we went on to creativity. We talked about teachability. We have also talked about the growth mindset. We have talked about the art of learning how to receive feedback, the art of service, just among the few skills that one should possess that makes them distinguished from now people who are just using technology and think that technology really is not going to replace anytime soon, things such as intuition. So from your list, would like to hear any other skill that you might be having that we have not actually exhausted upon, and then
Mm,
we can answer the questions that are coming in from the team.
okay. Maybe one more that I could really capitalize on. There are quite a number, but one more that I could capitalize on is persuasion. It's a very important skill that usually people in sales use, but it can cut across. It's basically your ability to influence decisions. And this is something that people use when they need something, but you know that direct inquiry or confrontation is not going to be taken positively. So persuasion and motivational leadership. Most times people get tired of receiving instructions after instructions, orders, they call them, commands. So if you learn the skill of persuasion, the skill of motivational leadership, you'll find it much easier because people consider that as something that they can't easily automate. It gives that the human touch that everyone is craving for, everyone is trying to build, trying to basically everyone is looking to see who out there is authentic, who is less robotic, who can actually care about me, who can love me. Everyone is just craving for someone to honor them, basically. So I would say that that alone could make you a better team player. It could make you a better leader. It could bring you that as a better sense of charisma, so that people will be even more drawn to associate with you. And it's good for business. It's good for connection, for networks. So I would say that in conclusion, that would be the best uh, additional skill that I can capitalize on. Thank you.
Wow, that is something that we would have really missed out on, and it's very key. The art of persuasion as well as learning to be a motivational leader. Interesting that you have touched on something that Robert has actually asked here. And he is saying, how best, thank you so much, Shamim, for taking us through. How best can employers reward creativity while also, sorry about that, um, he is asking how best can employers reward creativity while also striving for a mutual balance relationship, and what strategies can a person employ for a manager who presents creative ideas minus according the initial source or person. I believe by that he is asking how would you appreciate someone whose ideas have been implemented by the manager without necessarily acknowledging the person who is responsible for that particular creative idea? I believe that is what he's asking. So he's asking, how do you reward creativity as an employer? How do you create a mutual balanced relationship while still rewarding creativity? And how do you go about a situation where creativity has been employed by a superior without them really giving credit to you as the source of that particular creativity? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. I would say that rewarding creativity um is very, it really depends on the person, because if you know your worth, if you have that sense of self-awareness, whether you get rewarded or recognized or not, you understand that the true reward comes from the unseen, comes from the blessings. And it's something that I didn't mention earlier, but at times it can even be generational blessings that you earn or develop. You realize that even if you feel like you're giving too much and you're not seeing the blessings coming like you expect, like you anticipate, maybe the blessings that won't come to the next generation. You'll find that the people who you're so worried about leaving behind, those who you feel are dependent on you, suddenly you'll see them succeeding, suddenly you'll see them excelling, and it could be considered as divine intervention, not knowing that that is the true reward. So when you're looking at developing your creativity, seeing to it that, okay, I need to get something out of it, think differently. Think about it as intellectual assets. Now, when a superior takes credit for your work, of course it hurts your feelings. It makes you feel that, why did I even try if I'm not going to get that credit for it? And you'll find most innovative people either stop contributing or even they leave the organization entirely, because perhaps they're looking for uh, a place where they can be valued better. So I'll share a few ways that organizations or persons can actively or intentionally reward that creativity. If it's not coming from within, how can you as a leader, maybe it's you who wants to implement this and make someone feel happy, feel satisfied for what they're doing. So we can look at the innovation time. Usually they call it the 20% rule. It's seen in mostly tech companies. You'll find that it is embedded in the policy that you allow employees to spend a percentage of their work week on projects that actually align with their passion, align with their creativity. It's not necessarily tied to their KPIs. You find that they can be a TV room in the organization where people can just go and just sit and relax or play. Those who are good at gaming, they go and play. So sometimes that helps to open up people's minds. Some organizations have a hybrid arrangement where they they lock it to your performance or your ability to hit a particular milestone. So if you've done very well in a project and it depicts that you have actually showcased your creativity in this area, you're given maybe a 4-day work week for a month, meaning 4 days you're in office, 1 day can decide to not show up. You can either work remotely or take that vacation that you've always wanted. Another way of recognizing creativity is actually recognizing your invention as intellectual property. We've seen it quite common in most employment contracts that it's clearly written in a clause that everything that you create is considered as company's property, intellectual property. And this doesn't augur well with some individuals. You'll find some creatives actually sabotaging the organization at the time of exit. You see some website developers like not changing the passwords to the server because maybe the exit is not very good. Maybe they have been fired, and basically they know that, okay, this is something I created and I feel like I should go with it. So some organizations have been proactive around it. Even if the company technically owns the work, they can reward the inventor through internal attribution. They can even name that campaign or that tool after that person who built it or created it, so that even if they leave the organization, they'll know that this is a shamim something, like, so that I don't like that the employee doesn't have that mindset or that urge to destroy it, or sabotage it. Yeah, so maybe let me speak a little bit about when a superior takes a credit. Of course, you can navigate it in a strategic way just to avoid you feeling discouraged or negative. One of the most strategic ways is to create a paper trail. Ensure that everything you're providing is on email or in writing, so that it shows if someone is to deeply investigate where it really came from. You can keep some okay, it depends on organizations, but you can also keep the relevant stakeholders in copy to ensure that the people who matter are aware that you are involved and the capacity in which you are involved in the project. However, you can still put it in your CV and your LinkedIn to showcase that you are part of the organization, the project team that delivered this. Even if you showcase yourself as a contributor, it still feeds into the success of that particular initiative, and you can still brag. You have bragging rights over it, even if it's not you who announced it or delivered it. As long as you know, if someone is to see it on your profile and ask, how did you do this, you'll be the best person to answer, and you'll say that I did it with my own hands. It's me who was the main implementer. And yeah, you never know what opportunities can come out of that. Thank you very much.
That's really something I really didn't expect on this particular one, that you can actually reserve documentation that can help you with reference to highlighting that you actually took part in creating that particular concept. And the thing of sabotaging, I've seen it happen twice, and it's an interesting thing when employees don't feel acknowledged. So thank you for highlighting that. I think the thing of naming really stood out for me. And to our last question for the night, because I can see our time is fast spent. We are back to Miles Johnson's question, and he was asking about the negative side of emotional intelligence. For example, you have a boundary, but you know your superior does not really agree with your boundary, or they would rather not agree and they would want to impose something on you. So he was asking, how do you go about it in a scenario where emotional intelligence makes you look weaker? Or probably just to give you another practical example that might easily relate is when you are told that if a ruler rises up against you, you should hold your spirit. You should not answer back to your ruler, or you should just forgive and let it go. Now, it looks like emotional intelligence is making you look weak, but how do you go about it?
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, sometimes that does happen. It's a common misconception that it's about emotional intelligence is all about being nice, being sweet, being kind. But if it actually prevents you from speaking up, I think it's something different. You're falling into a conflict avoidance trap. If you have a high emotional intelligence, it's actually a hard skill, and it's the ability to be firm and assertive even without being aggressive. You don't have to be the quiet person who accepts everything, people pleaser. You can actually find a way to still put your point across in a way that doesn't bring up that passive aggressiveness from the other side. Some of the ways that I've also practiced such is, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, the active listening bit cannot fail to appear in such a situation. Because when you actively listen, you also you speak back about what they've told you, what they have heard, and then you ask them to think about it in a different way. Like, what about if you think about it in this way? And you give maybe two or three options so that when they finally agree on one of them, they could actually, in fact, take credit. You make them think that it's their idea. It usually applies to people who have that narcissistic behavior. They want to always seem like they're in control. And you, the emotionally intelligent person, knows that what you're communicating is probably the best approach, and you understand that this person has this personality type, and you have to navigate your way around it in order to get the best practice through the door. So yeah, I would say that don't get it misinterpreted. You are just looking at aspects of timing. You are looking at proactiveness. You can even think ahead, knowing that your emotional intelligent. You understand personality types, characters, and you even think ahead. You know that, okay, I'm going to go into this conversation, and this is probably what the person is going to say, and this is how I'm going to respond after they have said it. It's a skill that you also learn if you're in PR, because I served as the director of public relations in HRMAU, so it developed my that skill of being thinking proactively, understanding what someone is going to think before you communicate, before you say something. You think of all those who are going to hate what you have said. You think of all those who are going to love what you've said. You think of all those who are going to be offended. Then you adjust accordingly prior before you even share, so that the number of people who might not take your communication well are less than those who are going to think of it positively. So it's a skill that you take over time. Can also consider uh, having a pause, a tactical pause, to regain power for such people who seem like they want to be in control, and you want to give them that, that opportunity. You just you just um you just take a pause first, and you say, okay, I really love that perspective, and do you mind if we circle back on that in an hour, or maybe can I get back to you in a day? That way it gives them that mentality that, okay, yeah, I'm winning in this conversation. But then by the time they cool off, and you come back together, you share your logical perception of the conversation. Of course, you'll have to have had your data, and you'll have to have done your research on what everyone is thinking, what buy-in you're getting from the different people. Thank you very much.
Interesting. It's really amazing to think that human beings can have a conversation without necessarily having to raise voices. You just need to know the how. This has been a very insightful and contemplative conversation. I believe that we have enjoyed and we have picked a few nuggets or two. Just to summarize the things that we have talked about as essential skills, we have talked about emotional intelligence, having the ability to have an intuition. Ethical reasoning is something that AI has not yet been trained to do fully. but we are getting there with time, creativity, teachability, and adaptability, sorry, and also having a positive self view of yourself because that influences your growth mindset and moves you from a fixed mindset. It's also important to understand how to receive feedback and having just the spirit of service that helps you to grow through and credibility as well as experience. And who knows, it might just give you a positioning and an elevation to the next phase of where you need to be. Also, learn to ask the right questions, make them open ended, as well as having the ability to persuade and do motivational leadership at the same time, recognizing that your inventions are intellectual properties, so you carry them with a lot of discretion and knowing how to go about your business as an employee or as an employer in motivating your team. So at this particular juncture, thank you very much, Ms. Shamim. Please give us your parting shot as we wrap up this conversation.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, First of all, I would like to truly appreciate the entire team at Future Den. I'd like to appreciate you, Faith, and most especially those who have dedicated the last minutes or hours to be a part of this conversation. I see you, Samuel. I see you, Nicole, Johnson, Grace. So many people that joined in when we were in the middle of the conversation. Really appreciate you. You don't know how much it means to me to see you following, and I hope that you have picked something new from the conversation. I personally follow Future Den, and being a part of this from the speaker side of you is really enlightening. I feel like even the opportunity that I've gotten to share my story, share my views and opinions has been eye-opening, and I don't take it for granted. I look forward to contributing even more. I look forward to supporting even more people. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me in case you feel that I can support in one way or another, because I feel indebted. As I mentioned, volunteering and acts of service are part of the things that drive me. And of course, being a part of the Future Den initiatives that you mentioned earlier on, Faith, I believe that we all have a part to play in this. Thank you very much and wish you a wonderful night.
Amazing. Thank you very much for also dedicating your time to be here. We do hope that you arrived safely, and we know you did because you're still here talking to us. Thank you very much. We are glad to have hosted you, and we look forward to having you time and time over again and learning more from you even as you rise up through the ranks in the marketplace. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This has been a very insightful conversation. Remember that the conversation is still available on YouTube for you to review and to share with your friends and family. So kindly visit the channel at Future Then, and you will be able to access more content like this that will be able to position you in the marketplace and in the future of work. Also, remember that we have the Future Then Career Network that is currently open for enrollment. So the links have been shared on the chat boxes. Thank you to our YouTube audience. You have been a lively host on that particular platform. I saw that all you were doing was sharing nuggets. I believe that all your questions have been answered.